Whether you operate one forklift or thousands, one location or hundreds, the new My Toyota customer portal can help you optimize your operation and material handling equipment. This one-stop, free-to-use platform is designed to help you take control of your information and make smarter decisions, all at the touch of a button. Register and access your data today at my.toyotaforklift.com. That's my.toyotaforklift.com.
Today's warehouse needs to keep inventory moving smoothly and quickly. Meet these challenges with on-demand warehouse labeling from Brother Mobile Solutions. Our mobile and industrial printers will help optimize your operations to achieve the speed, reliability, and durability your warehouse needs. With easy integration for existing warehouse technology, convenient portability, and upfront affordability, Brother Mobile Solutions is at your side when it comes to warehouse labeling. Try one for free today by visiting brothermobilesolutions.com/new warehouse or click the link in the show notes. That's brothermobilesolutions.com/new warehouse to try one for free today.
The New Warehouse Podcast, hosted by Kevin Lawton, is your source for insights and ideas from the distribution, transportation, and logistics industry. A new episode every Monday morning brings you the latest from industry experts and thought leaders. And now, here's Kevin.
Hey, it's Kevin Lawton with the New Warehouse Podcast, bringing you a new episode today. On today's episode, I am going to be joined by Craig Henry. He is the U.S. Industry Manager of Intralogistics at Siemens. And we're going to talk to Craig about kind of 2023 and some takeaways so far as we're just here in the first quarter. We're going to hear from him a little bit about what he thought about Manifest and some takeaways from there earlier this year. We spent some time together there, and then also kind of what should we expect for in 2023 and how to prepare for that, and then kind of also looking into the future of where will 2023 lead us as we go into what's after 2023. You guessed it, 2024, right? So we're going to talk a little bit about that and kind of get his insights on what's happening in the space. So Craig, welcome to the show. How are you?
Doing great, Kevin. Thanks for having me on today. Looking forward to talking to you about this. We're in very interesting times.
Yes.
And yes, I use the word interesting because it's so non-committal, but we'll get into it.
Okay, sounds good. And it's good to have you on the show again for the second time, I think, as a guest. I think last time I had you on at ModeX, right? So, yeah. So why don't you give us kind of, I mean, Siemens obviously is everywhere, right? In a lot of different industries and things. But tell us a little bit about kind of Siemens' role in the intralogistics space and distribution space for people who might not be so familiar.
Yeah, and in fact, a lot of people don't know us in this space. Siemens does about $18 billion in the U.S., and we're sort of this quiet, best-kept secret in automation.
Yeah.
When it comes to warehouse automation, we're a leader globally, and I'm excited to be a part of the team here. I've been U.S. Industry Manager for Intralogistics going on 4 years, and we have built out a team. We have a new director. We have a team of 4 business developers. But what we do in this space, Siemens is an engineering company. We're a bunch of engineers. That's really, if you want to melt it right down to the very core, that's what we are. And we continue to invest in an ecosystem from shop floor to top floor, they say. The more sophisticated way to say that is operational technologies all the way up through informational technologies, and how that convergence happens.
Yeah.
And since we've invested in that technology layer, we've been doing this for decades, we find ourselves in a really good position to serve this market. And so the more tangible way to answer that question is the control systems that run the conveyors, the sorters, the singulators, the ASRS systems, the cybersecurity that's in the switches, the edge computing, the onboard electronics on an AGV, AMR. We're in all of that. And we don't make those things.
Yeah.
We're like tier 2, but we're supplying a layer such that all the manufacturers of those components don't have to worry about safety and security and communication protocol, and we've made it as much like Lego as it can be. All of our systems can connect through one thing called TIA Portal. So we have this great ecosystem for a lot of the folks that are interested in automating a warehouse.
Interesting. Yeah. And I think, like you said, not a lot of people are familiar with you guys in this space. I think way back ProMat 2019, when I kind of first started the podcast, and I was there, and I think I talked to somebody from Siemens, and I was kind of like, I didn't know Siemens was really involved in the space. So it's definitely interesting. But obviously, as you said, you guys have your hands in a lot of different spots that people may not be necessarily familiar with. So you guys were at Manifest recently this year as well, which was a great show, definitely, and it was great to hang out with you a little bit too. So why don't you tell us a little bit about kind of, because that was right kind of at the beginning of this year. So tell us some of your takeaways from Manifest, and then also kind of the year so far, as we're kind of we're still in Q1, right? But we're kind of coming towards the end here. So what are you kind of taking away from the beginning of the year?
Well, there's a whole lot happening, and it's not all in one direction. It's kind of all over the place. Let me explain.
Sure.
Manifest, first of all, is a great show. It's only in its second year. Yeah. I've been to both, fortunately. Dan Reese does a fantastic job putting together what I think is a state-of-the-art conference/trade show.
Yeah.
There are a lot of investors that come to Manifest to look for something to invest in. There are billions of dollars that are represented. I don't know if everyone knows that about Manifest, but it's also, it's quite a showplace.
Yeah.
It bridges the logistics and intralogistics spaces. So you've got over the road and, railway and, the outbound logistics component, but you've also got the technologies of all supply chain. I think it's, if I could pick one show and that would be it for my space, I would pick Manifest. No disrespect to Modex and ProMat. They're phenomenal, but they're gigantic.
Yes.
It's hard to, set yourself apart. But I think it was terrific. I think that, that the investment thing I want to touch on in a minute, but sure. I think what I saw was a lot of interest. I believe that the numbers were about double from last time. So last year. So, I know COVID had an effect there, but people are ready to go. And there were a lot of sessions that were overflowing, standing room only at Manifest. And I was actually called into one 24 hours ahead of time. And by no virtue of my own, it was filled up too, and my boss couldn't even get in, which was fine.
Yeah. So I mean, with that, kind of the show was great, right? And you're saying there's a lot of investors there. So I mean, what were you seeing that as you're talking to people there, or just in general so far in the year? I mean, what are people really interested in, and where are investors kind of looking?
Well, investors have been crazy about robotics for the last year,
right?
Or maybe 2 years. That's been like catnip for investors. What we're finding is just because someone develops a robotic technology doesn't mean that it's going to be commercially viable or useful. And so one of the, I guess, a little bit sobering numbers I heard was that venture capital is down about 53% year over year.
Yeah.
So there isn't a lot of money being thrown at this or any high-tech venture. So we're seeing a culling of the herd. I think that, having said that, automation robotics is absolutely essential.
Yeah.
And is moving forward as fast as we will let it. And that's encouraging. I think it's very encouraging. The automaton type robotics are even more advanced than they've ever been. And there will be a use case for those here soon, more than just getting coffee at a coffee place or whatever. I think we're going to see a lot more of the multifunction autonomous mobile robot coming into play in the coming few years. But from a financial point of view, we've got purse strings being drawn up. We've seen the high-tech world, Google, Facebook, Amazon, laying off tens of thousands of people as an adjustment. But it doesn't mean that technology is dead. It just means they had to shore things up and get I guess, more financially responsible.
Right.
But I think all the high techs are marching forward quickly, and I'm seeing great excitement. I'm seeing, in a nutshell, right now we're in the winter, not just on the calendar, but we're in the winter in the sense that we're not harvesting, we're investing, we're getting ready for the spring and the summer. And this is a time for companies who are smart and have cash to really look at their organizations and get strategic. Now, I preach something that I think is absolutely essential. You've got to strategize before you digitize. And this whole idea of let's go get a robot or let's get some new $1 million software, I would encourage everyone from boardroom down to pump the brakes and look at what the strategy is for your organization. Make sure strategically you're going after something that's going to make you money. Just the fundamentals of your business. Get right down to what are we trying to improve here? Is our customer service at 80%, 60%?
Yeah.
How do we define it? What's our goal? Are we going to 90%, 95% on-time delivery of everything? What are we trying to accomplish? What is our strategic advantage? And then use the tools that are available today that are less expensive than ever today to digitalize the business. And it doesn't have to be overnight,
Right.
but to do so in a way that's going to really affect the bottom line. This is something we've seen companies do over the years. If you look at why Domino's Pizza is doing so well.
Yeah.
Is their pizza better? Well, they did that years ago, made sure they were high quality. But the real thing is the technology front end that they've done, such that you have digital tracking and everything all the way through the product delivery.
Yeah.
They focused on that. That was where they spent their money, and it worked strategically. So I think from intralogistics, whatever you're delivering, consider where your bottlenecks are. Start there, and use the tools once you've figured out your strategy. And the strategy should be something that's just business fundamentals and has nothing to do with a robot per se.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a great point, because you don't want to kind of get in this situation, I guess, the shiny object syndrome, right? Where you're looking and saying, like you said, there's robots that manifest, and I'm sure, we're coming up on ProMat, and there's going to be robots all over the place, right? But doesn't necessarily mean that your operation needs a robot right now, right? So I mean, I think you have a great point there, and seeing like where is that bottleneck, and how do you address that from a digital perspective, which doesn't necessarily mean a robot needs to go in that place, but you can do a lot of improvements there before you get to that full kind of automation level. But I'm curious, I want to take it back there for a second, as you kind of mentioned the layoffs in the tech space. Over the last couple years, we've seen certainly tech increasing within our space, right? In the kind of the logistics distribution space, we talk about robots, obviously, but even from like a machine learning, AI perspective, we're seeing a lot of that come into the systems that we're utilizing and people are rolling out now for our space. Do you think that we'll see some of those tech workers that have been laid off kind of start to maybe migrate more into the supply chain space to create even more innovation?
We'll be back after a quick break.
You hear a lot about supply chains these days, because if the past couple years have taught us anything, it's that an efficient, well-managed supply chain is absolutely critical to keeping businesses successful and consumers happy. I'm Will Haywood, and I host a podcast called All Business, No Boundaries, where we talk about supply chains, how they work, what happens when they don't, and the innovations that are redefining what's possible in the world of logistics. Join me for insightful interviews with thought leaders and industry experts. We discuss how optimizing supply chains can break down the barriers that are holding businesses back. That's All Business, No Boundaries by DHL Supply Chain. Listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the neat thing about this is that, the first layoff at Amazon was 2,300 people, all in the Seattle area. And I've seen some of their stories, and I work pretty closely with Amazon. They're going to go out and like seeds being cast into the wind and go and do other stuff. Now, there's a guy that I know who's from Amazon Robotics and in the Boston area, And he left on his own. He wasn't laid off, but it was around the same time. And he's starting an automated company that is going to build low-cost housing. They're putting together a factory that's going to,
interesting,
like robotically produce houses.
Yeah.
And it's his passion, and they've got some capital, and it's a small team. I think there's just 6 people maybe. Mm-hmm. And they're going great guns, and he's happy as a clam. So absolutely. These are skilled people that have seen the higher levels of technology available on the planet. They're going to do great. They're going to do it because there's nothing but opportunity out there.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, and I'm curious to see like the next couple of years, what comes out of that, because it's certainly like, if you were to look like 5, 6, 7, 10 years ago, I think those people would probably not have an interest in getting into the supply chain space, right? Because it was not as, heavy on the tech, and not as many people were trying to innovate in the space, but now there's a ton of stuff going on. So it'd be interesting to see as they kind of come in and see what types of innovations they might come up with, looking from a different perspective. So with the, I guess, remainder of the year in 2023, and as you mentioned, the purse strings are kind of tightening up a little bit. I mean, what else do you think we can expect from the kind of automation, intralogistics type of areas within our space for the remainder of the year?
I still see, now this goes counter to what I've already said. I still see there being a huge move, particularly by major players, to install gigantic automated storage retrieval systems, multiples, and this is all driven by the labor problem.
Right.
We have, and it's not just the U.S., it's the whole Western world cannot find workers for warehousing.
Yeah.
And you're probably aware of this. I don't know that you're trying to hire folks for what you're doing, Kevin, but it's not a place where folks want to work. And automation is for the dull, dirty, and dangerous. And I think this, no offense, falls under dull.
Yeah.
Going and picking stuff off a shelf all day is not something that's going to happen. So regardless of the climate, you have Walmart and others investing, I think, huge amounts of money into these not heavily manned facilities that are going to be like a vending machine that does automated storage retrieval. I think that's absolutely got to happen regardless of the climate of financial stewardship that we're seeing. Now, having said that, I'm starting to see, by the way, a little bit of relaxation.
Okay.
I won't say with which huge company, but whereas there was this lockdown of expenses and stuff, I'm seeing more projects starting to open back up.
Interesting.
From the OEMs and integrators that I deal with.
Yeah.
So I don't think we're going into a dark winter kind of thing. I think that we've kind of righted the ship, and it's going to be kind of this year. But by beginning Q1 2024, my prediction is we're going to see much more project money. And, some will die. There will be a culling of the herd. But I think that a lot of the major players are going to still be investing heavily. So we're in a great space here. No worries at all.
Interesting. And I'm curious there, as you talking about, kind of the lower or I guess a smaller number of people within these distribution spaces where, the ASRSs are coming into play. And I think for a while, I think like initially when we really started seeing like automation and robotics being talked about in our space pretty heavily, there was really like a lot of talk about the idea of like a dark warehouse, right? And then I think the conversation kind of shifted to more of collaborative approaches, like with robots. So I mean, do you think, and I think that I'm seeing now this conversation of dark warehouses come up more than it has in the past couple of years. Like I think there was more focus on like the collaborative aspect, but are you seeing from who you're talking to and what you're hearing, I mean, is the dark warehouse more getting closer and closer to being on the horizon of something that's really, I don't want to say a reality, but is more of what companies are looking towards now?
That's a good question. I think that we're going to see a vast majority of collaborative work environments,
Right.
because the human element has to manage the exception, and the repetitive everyday can be automated very quickly and with great return on investment. There have been, for many years, the lights out factories. Mitsubishi made motors in the 90s in a lights out factory, probably still do. I think that Gateway Computers back in the day had a no human touch assembly system all the way down through shipping for laptop computers, notebook computers. It's something we have had technology for some time. It's just, do you need that? Do you want that?
Yeah.
For the 3PL, I would say, if you're shipping CDs, okay, who wants a CD though? That's an easy thing. Like, DVD. But if you're shipping skis, or you're shipping, something that's not a normal size that fits in any kind of tote, you're going to have people involved to deal with that. So I think the collaboration, and there's a nugget of truth in this, that the collaboration with technology is going to be the strongest combo.
Yeah.
I mean, when you talk about the chess world, you've got computers playing chess, you've got people playing chess. The best is a person with a computer playing chess. The person who's going to pick up things, set direction, set the computer on the iterative task, the repetitive task, get answers, make decisions. It's true also in robotics. I think we're going to be doing cobots for a good long time, and that's probably going to be the mainstay. That's my take.
Interesting. So I mean, in that sense, like I guess when I'm thinking of like a collaborative robot, like I'm thinking of one that's kind of coming to you as you're picking, and then you're sending it on its way, versus like maybe not a fully dark warehouse, but like an ASRS would be, more of that sense in my perspective. I mean, as you look at this, like, culling of the herd, as you were referring to earlier, I mean, and these robotics companies, I mean, where do you think like robotics companies should be focusing their efforts on developing their solutions in order to kind of survive into the future?
I think that you absolutely, as a robotics company, have to pick what function you're performing. The all things to all people robot, that's not a company that I could see being successful.
Interesting.
But if you're a robot for, I don't know, I think I had a family member who was waiting in the hospital and waiting for their doctor, and the doctor was a little bit late because he couldn't get access to the surgery robot that they were using.
That's so scary.
They all needed that robot to do knee surgery or whatever they were doing. I think it was knee surgery. So I think that you've got to find your niche and be hyper focused on what does your robot do, and make sure that you get in that space, because your robot is just a tool. No offense, for all this fun science fiction around robots, it's a tool like anything else, just like our phone in our hand is, and it's there for a function. You should get great at what that function is, be the best in your space, dominate your category.
Interesting. So the niche, basically, right? I mean, much like a lot of other companies, I think, where you focus on the niche, like you find like you really get strong in that area, and that really kind of propels you to grow, I think, is what you're saying.
We're in an age of many to many. We've come from a time of few to many in a lot of entertainment and niche companies, etc. Now with the connectivity we have, you have your own special tribe of automated fill in the blank. Go do that, and take the technology we have. And I did want to mention too that these technologies are so accessible now. One of the reasons AI has been exploding is because just the accessibility of coding and doing Python and other stuff has become so accessible that you could use it in your facility. It's not a problem if you want to do some machine learning and look for patterns, and go for it. It doesn't it's not just for the MIT special lab or for the moon launch or whatever.
And I think that's a great point, because the more that accessibility increases, then like the smaller to medium sized businesses as well can start to adopt it and utilize it and start to put it into play, and it becomes more of like a universal thing, right? Yeah, which is a great thing. So I guess on the automation front as well, I'm curious, what parts of the distribution process do you think are really kind of interesting to be seeing automated now? I mean, I think like initially there was so much of like the focus on the picking aspect, but now we're starting to see like some of those other processes that surround the picking aspect being automated. So what's kind of piquing your interest there?
I think that pallet load, load and unload, truck unload and load, these are difficult to automate.
Yeah.
And I think advances there will save time, will save people. I mean, the safety issue goes away when you're automating these things. A tote-based system, a mini tote ASRS runs on its own like a machine. That's great.
Yeah.
But there will still be a whole lot of stuff that's going to be palletized and put onto shelving, and how do you automate that? How do you automate lift trucks and get them safer and autonomous? I think that's a place where it's just practical to get that automated as best as we can. And I think running your distribution model, whether you're a practitioner, an end user like a big department store or something, or you're a 3PL in the middle or final mile, you've got to consider how much stock you need and use the systems for forecast and replenishment so that you can have product for your customer. Because that leads me to another point. Right now, delivery is everything.
Yeah.
Particularly in my space. I'm in a space that's been hit hard. Electronic components that make up motion controllers, for example, are one of the hardest things to get on earth, and everyone's suffering. There are commonly 200-day lead times for people to get products. So delivery is everything. And I think, since we've been once bitten, twice shy, we can say to the rest of the industry, understand your lead times, understand your reorder points, understand your forecast, just do the math on your customer service and use the systems available to make sure you have what you need in stock and you can deliver it quickly. You'll win. I have a story about that if you want to hear it.
Yeah, we love stories.
You have time? Okay. So I was fortunate enough to be able to go to Thief River Falls, Minnesota last summer and see DigiKey. If you know anything about electronics or have been an electronic tinkerer in your past, you know that DigiKey is a company that's been around since the 70s. They sell little electronic parts. That's what they do for a living.
Okay.
Privately held company. They have just built and have put into practice a brand new distribution center. Now, this is a privately held company, by the way, that does $4 billion in sales.
Oh, wow. Okay.
They've made and Canop helped them with this. Boimer and Canop were the vendors that did this great automated storage retrieval system. I want to say 1 million SKUs that they're moving from their old distribution center to the new one.
Yeah.
This place is so big, you could take the Empire State Building and lay it down diagonally within this thing. It's 2.2 million square feet.
Oh my
in the
God.
middle of nowhere.
Wow.
But they have their own airport and everything. They are killing it. But what I asked them when I was with them, I said, well, what happened over COVID? I mean, did you guys suffer?
Yeah.
And they said, no, we flourished. You know why? Stock. They had stock.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And when everyone else didn't, they're trying to move to be a $10 billion company.
Yeah.
And move from 28,000 shipments a day to 50,000 shipments a day. And they're saying, we see no issue with this. But they used all the tools and they were flexible enough to it's been a 10-year project for them to put this together, but like $250 million investment. And it made all the difference. Made all the difference. They're able to react quickly to customers, orders in the morning, ship out in the afternoon. I mean, they have it down. And the variety of stuff they have to ship out, it's pretty cool. Now, to your earlier point, when I was there, they were showing me some of the pick stations, which are manual. A person sits there, they can elevate the surface, they have the tools, and they're doing some manual stuff. And I heard this music behind me, and I turned around. It was an Omron robot, and it was playing some kind of 80s rock tune or something. It was the trash robot. And it just comes by and
the trash
is
robot
there for you to throw trash into, and it takes it away. And
Interesting.
puts it into this larger bin, and so no one has to be there to do trash. It just comes to you. Well, that's pretty cool. So for on one side of this place, you have this totally automated, with chain link fence around it. Don't even go in there. And then you also have where people are working this collaborative robot saying, "Here, I'm here to get your trash."
Wow.
And I guess the sound of music is what lets you know it's nearby. So, yeah, it was really neat to see. You could eat off the floor in this place.
Yeah.
They killed it. So it can happen. Yeah. It does work.
Yeah, interesting. And I can't say I've heard of a trash robot before. That's pretty cool. So, so I mean, did they not? I mean, they have a trash can, and then they hand the trash can to the robot, or the robot is the trash can
on it.
Yeah,
and it comes to you, and it stops, and you can send it on its way, or stop it, or whatever. And you put your trash into its, I don't know. It seemed to be a square thing that could hold, I don't know, 50, 60 gallons of trash. And then it went and dumped it in a main trash area, which was a larger square bin that went down into the floor, or maybe it was a chute. I'm not sure where it went. And so trash was just handled automatically, kind of like a Roomba.
Yeah. Wow, that's pretty cool. Yeah, definitely interesting.
So it's just a small place where a robot works.
Yeah.
But the rest of it was built on all the strategies of sortation and conveyor and automatic storage retrieval and bringing goods to person so that we can get it out.
Yeah, definitely. Interesting example, definitely. And I think it's key too to note that you mentioned it's been like a 10-year project. So I think that's good for companies who are thinking that they could potentially just kind of jump in and get there right away, but it takes time. And as you said, to strategize, I think you said strategize before you digitize, right? So, putting that strategy in play, it sounds like they did that, right? And now they've been following through all the way, and they're going to see the benefits of doing it through the right progression, right? Which I think is a really, really important thing there. So before we kind of wrap up here, I guess your final thoughts. I'm curious, we talked a lot about this year, 2023, what's happening so far and what's going to be happening. But I mean, where do you think 2023 kind of tees us up to head into 2024? What do you think we're going to be seeing there?
I think this is where I like to use the example I don't know who he was. The first self-made billionaire was someone who invested when the stock market crashed in 29 and was buying stocks pennies on the dollar.
Yeah.
Now, we're not in a situation like that, but the truth remains that those who invest right now will do really well in the coming 2 years as they get more efficiencies in their delivery model. Let's not forget that Walmart back in the 90s, where they gained a 7% overall advantage over Kmart and the others and emerged the leader, that was a supply chain advantage. Yeah. So now that we have the tools we have now, we can take that next leap, and any company can emerge as a leader by shoring up their supply chain, making the decisions about safety stock, et cetera, so that they can deliver on time and pull market share. So I believe that it's going to be a test on, frankly, who has the cash in 2023 to invest. Right. And then that will pay off in the coming years. So I think that's the main takeaway. I don't think it's all doom and gloom. I there's some volatility in the world that can change quickly. That's out of our hands here in the U.S. But I still think that everyone still needs to get their stuff, right?
Yeah.
Regardless, and even more so, I guess, in times of peril. So I think that this marketplace is strong, has continued to be strong, and for the next foreseeable future, like all the predictions are that the CAGR for this intralogistics space is at least 12%, and in certain areas it's 20% annual growth rate or more. Some of the robotics subtopics within intralogistics. So it's a great place to be.
Yeah, absolutely, and I totally agree. I mean, I don't think we're going anywhere. People are always going to need something to be delivered or shipped, and I think that's well into the future. And I think the pandemic, we certainly saw that we didn't go anywhere, right? We actually became more in demand. So I think that's a testament to that. So Craig, I really appreciate you coming on the show and giving us some insights into what you think is been happening and is happening into the future here. Really interesting to talk to you always, and I definitely appreciate you coming on. So if people are interested in learning more about the intralogistics side of Siemens, how can they do that?
Well, you can certainly reach out to me, Craig Henry, on LinkedIn. You'll find me. Look up Siemens. You'll see me. They can go to siemens.com/material handling, or just come to ProMat. I'll be there.
Yeah.
We'll do something. I think we're having free beer one day too. So come see us at ProMat on March 20 through 22.
Yeah, definitely. We love free beer. Absolutely. So we'll definitely put all that information at thenewwarehouse.com as well, so people can easily find it. So Craig, thank you once again for joining me on the show today.
You've been listening to the New Warehouse Podcast with Kevin Lawton. Subscribe and check us out online at thenewwarehouse.com.
Thank you for listening to this episode. If you want more content from the New Warehouse, check out our new video series called All Hands on LinkedIn. Just search for the New Warehouse on LinkedIn and follow along.